Hello and welcome to another episode of Historically Speaking. Here we discuss the authentic history across the world of important events, individuals, and their impact on contemporary times. Today, I have a very special guest and my former colleague, Sanjay Kumar of Center for the Study of Developing Societies. He's the director of Lokniti and CSDS. Sanjay is just come out of a heavy election. He's going to be predicting a couple of more elections in the future. Sanjay, I would like to tell my viewers, is one of the most authentic person when it comes to elections and their understanding, and he has a very deep understanding. It's not peripheral, but it's very, very deep understanding of the core issues that bother Indian democracy. So, Sanjay, thank you for taking out time for me.
Most welcome.
We've discussed a lot of issues, but one of the first question is about related to psephologies and psephologists. What is the history of psephology as far as you are concerned, and what do you understand of its relevance to you as a person?
I think if you look at when election survey started and the word terminology which we keep using, psephology, it started slowly and gradually in the 80s. 1980 was, I think, one of the first election surveys, psephological exercise of Indian elections. I'm not saying that's the first one. Earlier also there were some exercises, but when Prannoy Roy started doing this was in 1980, and I think that's the time people started knowing about psephology, because he started tying up with the national media, and I think that's the time he made predictions about which party is likely to win, and this whole terminology which we keep using these days, index of opposition unity, swing pattern, patterns of election, regional classification. So I think Prannoy Roy is one of the pioneerings. He started it in 1980 and continued till the middle of 1990s. And now these days you have large number of players. If I have to think about the Lokniti and CSDS as a group, as a team, I think CSDS has been doing it for a very long time. But since 1995 and 1996 Lok Sabha election, we are doing it on a continuous basis. When I say continuous basis, we have not missed any Lok Sabha election since 1996. We have covered all the Lok Sabha elections. We have done pre-poll surveys, post-poll surveys, 96, 98, 99, then 2004, 2009, 14, 19, and the most recent 2024 Lok Sabha elections. We have not even missed the major assembly elections. So I think I have been associated with the Lokniti program. I would consider myself as one of the founders of Lokniti program, along with Professor Yogendra Yadav and others. So we have covered almost 250 assembly elections, or maybe more than that. That's the long journey of Lokniti, which continues even today, and we hope to continue this journey for the next few more years at least.
To the point that you make, it was something that this era of predicting elections started in the 1980s, 1990s. At that point of time, it was not a central kind of a thing. Now it has become central to every election and every thing. There is an exit poll, and then there is an opinion poll, and then there is a pre-poll, and there is a post-poll. To the common man, it's very difficult to make that differentiation between pre and post and opinion poll.
I think the terminology itself explains.
Yeah.
Exit poll is most widely known, very popular, because from the estimates of exit poll is shown on the television channel on the last day of voting if there is a phased election. And why it is called an exit poll? Because the data is collected from the voters who exit from the polling station. So it is always conducted outside the polling station. As soon as the voter comes out of the polling station, the agency which is conducting an exit poll, their people are there, and they collect the data, collate it, and finally it is shown right on the last day of voting at 5:30 p.m., 6 p.m. And it is very popular because the Indian voters, Indian people, politicians, everybody, or a very large number of people, are very keen to know what's likely to happen in these elections. So exit poll has become very, very popular. We do a lot of post-poll surveys. And the post-poll survey is designed in such a way that we collect the data not outside the polling station. First, we collect the data before the results are declared, but after voting takes place. That is why it is called post poll. So we collect the data, and whatever estimates we have to make, we will make the estimate just before the counting takes place. Not necessarily for predicting the number of seats, but definitely to get a sense of where do parties stand, what is likely to happen in these elections. And when I say that, I mean at least the vote share estimates. We estimated vote share even for 2024, and we have been doing it for several elections in the past. Pre-poll surveys are normally done before election, pre-poll, before the polling takes place. It could be maybe a few weeks before election, it could even be 2 months before election. Suppose the two states goes to poll, Haryana and Maharashtra, Jharkhand and Jammu and Kashmir. So suppose next month or this month somebody wants to do a poll. This would be referred as a pre-poll survey because polling has not taken place. So it could be the timelines are not clear. It could be 2 months before election, it could be 2 weeks before election, it could be even 10 days before election. But exit poll is always done on the polling day, and a post poll is always done after the polling is over.
When the voter exits this polling station, and whether it is an agency conducting an exit poll or your post poll survey, how, in an era of secret ballot, and he's conscious, the voter is conscious of secret ballot, how do you come to know he's saying what he's actually done inside the polling booth?
No, that's why, there's so much of hue and cry about the estimates of exit poll in 2024.
Yes.
Because it is important to figure out how do you ask the most important question in exit poll, which is which party you have voted for. If you are standing at the polling station, outside the polling station, asking the voter in an open manner which party you have voted for, likelihood of people not giving you an accurate response is very high, because he may be surrounded by people of different political parties,
Yeah.
and he may be willing to speak what he thinks others would like to hear. That is why it is important that the voting question should be asked in a manner which allows the voter to maintain the secrecy. When we do our exit polls, and that is why we never do exit poll, we go to people's houses. It is the voter feel more comfortable answering the voting question, or maybe there are several other questions which is so personal that voters doesn't want to speak out standing at a public place. Also, when the voting question, even asking this question at somebody's house, we have a system. We would like we use the app these days for doing the survey, asking the question. So when you come to that question, uh, on the screen it displays the party symbols of the prominent parties which is contesting election, and the respondent has just to uh, press the symbol, or the place where the symbol is made. So what we do, we hand over the phone to the respondent, and the respondent presses that button, so nobody else knows. So we try and maintain the secrecy. In the old days, when we were asking this voting question and we were not using the app, so all the investigator used to travel with a dummy ballot box and a dummy ballot paper which used to be attached with the questionnaire. So that ballot paper was handed over to the respondent. He or she was free to mark without showing anyone which party he or she has voted for, or in a pre-poll survey which party he or she is likely to vote for. And he used to put that ballot paper into the ballot box. That allowed the voters to maintain the secrecy. Nobody else knows which party you have voted for. That brings you much closer to how people have actually voted, compared to if you ask in a public place and in an open manner which party you have voted for. I think that's one of the reasons why many exit polls go wrong. If you don't follow the method of asking the question, and a very important question which is about voting.
But since you have done, and since I'm really interested in this, and I'm sure people have never gone into the depth of it, so I'm sure my viewers would also want to know. When you have carried out surveys post poll and pre poll, can you think of elections and some elections which stand out in your surveys and in your memories as the survey indicated something and the result was completely different? You must be having some instances.
Certainly, and I keep saying, for us, Chhattisgarh is a laboratory, because what has happened in Chhattisgarh, we not only got it wrong in 2023 assembly election, we got it wrong even in 2018. That's the time when most of the pollsters predicted what is going to happen in Chhattisgarh correctly. in 2018, we had predicted that BJP is ahead of the Congress. And everybody was telling us, no, that's not the situation. But we go with what data we have collected from the ground. So, Chhattisgarh, twice we have got it wrong. But there are occasions when uh, everybody else was saying something and we said something and we have been right. So, there are occasions when you have sleepless night. Sleepless night means getting twice wrong in Chhattisgarh. So for us, it has become a laboratory. Why we are getting it wrong in Chhattisgarh? We need to get into the details, figure out what's happening in Chhattisgarh.
You've written, Sanjay, this book on youth and aspirations and elections in India, and you have mapped their changing aspirations over a period of time. Since the youth is a very central component in the voting and electoral process, because we are a young democracy, how have you seen the patterns of youth behavior and elections changing over the years?
Very clear. 2014 is the turning point. If I look at the turnout of the young voter, and when I am referring to the young voter, this is in the age category of 18 to 25. The turnout of the young voter used to be 4 or 5% less compared to the voters of other age group. And when I say turnout, it is an indicator of electoral participation. The like very specific indicator. 2014 is a point when youth started participating in elections in a big way. And just to cite the data now, 2014 election, the average turnout in election was 66%. Among the youth, the turnout was 68%, 2% higher. And if you look at the previous election, which is 2009, so average turnout is 58% and the youth turnout is 54%. So from a deficit of 4%, youth managed to surpass the turnout by 2%. In actual numbers, it's a very large number of youth who started participating in elections since 2014 election, who were not participating in elections in the previous elections, whether we are referring to 2009, 4 or the previous election. And I think one of the big reason is a new party which has come up, Aam Aadmi Party, a anti-corruption movement which was centered in Delhi, but I think there were other towns also. You can hear the noise of that, and that provided an occasion for a large number of youths to, come and participate on a public platform. I think that's one of the various factors which has resulted in youth participating in election in a much bigger number now compared to the past.
Sanjay, in your other book, you also talk a great deal about the expansion of the Bharatiya Janata Party beyond its traditional areas of operation. Like it went beyond the towns and cities in areas and among communities which they had earlier not voted for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Has the youth element got anything to do with it, or is it the Bharatiya Janata Party has evolved over a period of time?
Two important things. There was a time when we used to refer Bharatiya Janata Party as Brahman Baniya Party, or we also used to say that this is a party which is largely centered, or which party which draws support largely among the upper class, urban middle class. I think if you look at the expansion of BJP since 2014 election, remember 2009 Lok Sabha elections, BJP got 18.6% vote. 2019, 10 years from 2009 election, BJP's vote share increased to almost 37.5%. So this is a party which has added almost 20% votes in 10 years' time. If a party has managed to double its vote share in 10 years' time, you would imagine that party would have expanded among various sections, not only among the core supporters. So there is an expansion of BJP in terms of the rural voters. If you now look at the poor voters, voters who belong to the poor and the lower classes, among the Dalits, among Adivasis, and among the OBCs. Just to cite the data, 2024 is an election where you can see a slight decline among BJP support base among the urban voter, slight decline among the Dalits, slight decline among the OBCs, and slight decline among the upper and the lower OBC. But look at the expansion. BJP has made further inroads in 2024 compared to 2019 elections among the poor sections of the voter and among the rural voters. So the BJP, which used to be of the 2020, 29 or 2004 election, completely changed. Not that BJP has lost a massive support base among the upper or the middle classes, but 2014 election does give an indication that there is a slight decline in BJP's middle class support base, and BJP has managed to make inroads among the poor voters, the rural voters, which was not the bastion of BJP. Among the youth, yes, if you compare BJP support base among the youth in 2009, 2004, and even among 2014 election, since 2014 election, BJP has been able to make sizable inroads among the young voters. But from 2014 and 2024, I don't see much movement. BJP peaked in terms of making inroads among the young voter, and that has almost stabilized. So 2014, 2024, 10 years, not much uh, penetration of BJP support base among the young voters. But if you compare between 2009 and 14, a massive inroads BJP has been able to make among the young voters. And one important factor is attraction for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We have been asking this question and very clear. All those who wanted Prime Narendra Modi to be the Prime Minister of this country, among the young voters, very large number, disproportionately high compared to other age group, and their vote in favor of BJP disproportionately high compared to the other age group. Clear indication that BJP has become far more popular among the young voters now compared to what it used to be earlier.
Youth is one aspect, and of course, the urban rural divide you've already clearly listed. The woman's story is a story that took off from 2014 onwards, became more solidified in 2019. Prior to 2014 and prior to 2009, women were generally seen as passive voters. Whatever the husband said, you voted, especially in rural areas. It must be happening to a certain extent. But with we are progressing through multiple state elections, parties obviously are seeking more women voters, and they are obviously making their policies according to that. But the woman story has been a game changer, at least that's what the parties claim. What is in your understanding? Where are the women voters figuring? We constantly hear about them. Is it reflecting in your surveys?
Two things about women vote. First, women are certainly turning out in much bigger numbers now compared to the past. Where does this data come from? This is from the Election Commission of India. If you look at the turnout of women voter, in the 90s, women turnout used to be 9 to 10% less compared to the men turnout. But if you look at 2024 Lok Sabha elections or 2019 Lok Sabha election, the men and the women turnout at the national level is equal, almost equal. So clear indication that women are now turning out to vote in much bigger numbers now compared to the past. There are 16, 17 states where women have outnumbered men in different states when it comes to turnout. This applies to the Lok Sabha election. It also applies to the state assembly election. But the second point, I think it's an overstatement that voters have become a vote bank for BJP. We don't get that. There is no evidence for that. And if you look at the 2024 Lok Sabha election, women vote is clearly divided for different parties in different states. Bengal, the women vote out of all the women voters, 53-54% voters have voted for the Trinamool Congress and very less for the BJP and the Congress. So if you keep moving state by, Telangana, Karnataka, Congress has an advantage among the BJP voters. But if you come to Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, women voters are tilted in favor of the BJP. So there is no national story about women vote. I think there's a overstatement that Ujjwala schemes and various other schemes of central government has resulted in mobilizing a large number of women votes in favor of BJP nationally. That's not the story. State by state, if you move, there are different patterns. If you go to Telangana, if you go to Tamil Nadu, southern state, you don't see women vote shifting in favor of BJP or the Congress. It is largely, earlier it used to be with AIDMK, now it's a divided vote. So there is no national story about whether women voters are voting for BJP in very large number or for the Congress.
Sanjay, my question is again, I'll bring you back to the women voters. Why have women suddenly this thing has come about that women are voting in large numbers, or women voters are coming out in large numbers, and data and statistics suggest why are women voting in large numbers then?
It has not happened all of a sudden. It's a slow and gradual process. Such big changes, whether we are talking about political change, social change, takes time. Remember, in the early 90s, a legislation has come which required all the states to reserve at least 33% seats for women in the local body election. Some states went ahead and and reserved 50% seats. Bihar being one of the few states which reserved 50% seats for women. If you look at from 90s till now, most of the state has completed 6 or 7 cycles of panchayat elections. Seats are reserved in such a manner that a seat gets reserved for women. In the next election, it gets de-reserved. So there is a rotation of seats for women, a reservation of seats for women. Now, over last 6 7 elections, there is a big group of women contestant who have contested elections. Suppose some women candidate has got elected from a reserved constituency, next election that gets de-reserved. So large number of women have now started contesting even from non-reserved constituency. And there's a clear data on that. If you look at a particular state, if there are 33% seats reserved for women, but if you look at the profile of the elected representative, you will invariably in most of the state, you will find more than 33% women getting elected, which is to say, women are now getting elected even from non-women reserved constituency. So a class of women has got created over the last 30 40 years. They have politically become more conscious and become politically more active. That has also enthused the women voters or women living in that village, in that locality. That is a very important factor which has contributed to women taking an active part in politics, and voting is one of the act of taking part in politics. Social media is another factor. People who are very active on social media, which includes either men and women both. So women who are more active on social media, they are participating more in election. They are getting the information, and when you get information, you also discuss among your or within the family, within the core group, and this all has resulted into women participating in much bigger numbers in election. It did not require any legislation. We know that a legislation has come reserving 33% seats for women in the parliament and state assemblies, which will come into effect in few years' time. But for this, there was no legislation required. Women on their own got mobilized and started participating in election. And the data is very, very clear. It started 10 years back, and the trend is becoming stronger and stronger election after election and in several states.
Sanjay, out of all the years that you have done surveys and on understanding the elections and stuff, why does caste continue to be still the most dominant issue?
So you mean to say voters are at fault? I don't think voters are at fault. First, I think caste is a reality. Second, why in politics we keep paying so much of attention on caste and politics? Where does the politics start? First, as soon as the elections are announced and parties have to figure out whom to give tickets to, what is the prime consideration? The prime consideration a winnable candidate. जो जीतने वाला है उसको टिकट देना है. And what is the thermometer for available with political parties to figure out जीतेगा कौन, जीतने की संभावना किसकी है, who is a winnable candidate? And the thermometer which they use is invariably caste. Which caste, voters of which caste are in sizable number in a particular constituency, and they would invariably pick up a candidate who belongs to that caste. Look at, just to give an example of Ghaziabad constituency, this time you have a non Rajput leader, but if you look at the last 3 4 elections, people who do not belong to that constituency but they have got elected, they have been given ticket by political parties because they belong to a particular caste. So if that starts happening, caste becomes the prime consideration of giving ticket. When they go out to campaign, they also use as one of the various tools to mobilize the voter, to send out a message. And the voters also feel a little bit of comfort level that कुछ हो या ना हो हमारी जाति का तो है. जब काम आएगा तो maybe we will be able to reach out to him. We will be able to get hold of him. We will be able to use some connection. So that is why besides several other factors, caste also becomes an important factor in Indian elections.
My final question to you is, and something which is very going to be exciting and probably challenging for you, is delimitation and the census that is going to come out. The census is going to throw up huge numbers for you. Very exciting numbers, very different numbers that are going to come out. And so is delimitation going to throw up a completely different map of India. at least the electoral map of India. What do you understand will change with that?
Oh, for a person like me, psephologist, someone who does election analysis, what we call there is a base,
Yeah.
and base is your past election results.
Yeah.
So what will happen uh, if the delimitation takes place? The boundaries of the constituencies will change.
Yes.
So whenever we have to make any projection about which party is likely to get how many votes, which party is likely to perform well or bad in this election, we look at the past election data. Uh, and you are able to match the same constituency. So suppose there is a constituency which I want to figure out. Has Congress been, we keep talking about Chhindwara, that this is a constituency which BJP, Congress has never lost. They lost in 2024. But then you look at that constituency over a period of time. Delimitation will divide what the delimitation exercise is going to redraw the boundaries. So what will happen? Many constituencies will disappear, a new constituency will come up. Also, we know that in this delimitation, the number of constituencies are going to increase. So it is certainly going to happen that many constituencies will disappear, means their boundaries will be divided. So now, if this happens between 24 and 2029 Lok Sabha elections, and in 2029, when we want to do a survey, and we want to extrapolate based on what was the result in this constituency in the last election, we won't be able to figure out, we won't be able to match. Uh, that is going to be a big challenge. We will be able to roughly match, and then that becomes that is going to be a great challenge for all the people who do polls, to pollsters. It is like when you prepare for an examination, NEET exam, so much talked about. Uh, these days, all examinations are talked about for wrong reasons. What does the student do? He or she has to prepare for NEET exam. He has to prepare for CUET. They look at the past question papers. 5 साल का पेपर ले आओ, and the coaching institute, the parents, the teachers give advice. वो उसको देख लेना ठीक से. You have to, look at those questions carefully. We also do like that. When we make any projection, when we do the survey, in order to figure out, have we got it wrong? Is our estimate maybe extrapolating or overestimating for some party? So how do we figure out? Because we look at our past record. That record will not be available there. That's the problem. Suppose, again going back to the example of NEET exam, suppose next year they change the entire pattern, no NEET, nothing. The new students will not have any question paper to fall back upon. That's going to be a big challenge for all the pollsters.
Thank you, Sanjay, for taking out time and talking to us. Election continues to be a hot topic for you and me, and we've discussed it when I was at CSDS, and we discussed it otherwise over whenever I've got an opportunity to meet you. It's always fascinating talking to you. Just the plethora of information that comes our way, and the most authentic information that comes our way is great. Thank you.
Thank
For
you.
taking out time, and thank you to our viewers for joining us. Thank you.